Welcome to the Channel Chat podcast. Proudly sponsored by Convergent Technology.
Hello, I'm Mark Sumner, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have the pleasure in the virtual studio because he couldn't get here in person because his diary got messed up, but I'll forgive him for that, who is Andrew Gomarsall, the MBE, Executive Chairman of N2S, and obviously World Cup winning rugby star. How are we doing, Andrew?
Very good, and I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. It's not in person because I think we'd have a good old laugh. We will do anyway, but it'd be better, a more physical high-fiving laugh.
Next time, because am I right in thinking you're a Beaconsfield? Like you were around this area before, anyway, weren't you?
You lived in Beaconsfield for a bit. When I moved back, I moved from Gloucester to Quins, and that was a sort of at the end of my career. That was a good move because it got me closer to London, if that makes sense. Coming back, I loved Cheltenham, Gloucester, it was amazing, but I was like, what am I going to do next? And yeah, so getting back, so Beaconsfield, then we lived in Marlow for 10 years, and literally that little park, industrial park, was empty. And then really? This company called Softcat. I was like, who are these clowns? They're like purple badge. Who are this lot? And it just got bigger and bigger, and the cars got like, more and more, supercars. I was like, yeah, who are these? Who are these guys? Yeah. So that was Marlow, and then Henley, and then now I'm down near Southampton.
Do you know what? It was funny when I first got in recruitment 24 years ago. I'd heard of Softcat or Software Catalog, and I literally thought, who are these? This is going to be a rubbish firm, a catalog they're sending out. And I was a recruiter, a junior recruiter doing IT, and I was doing quite a lot in distribution, and I completely dismissed them. I didn't even try calling them. Obviously, only £1 billion company now, so that was. Luckily, I do speak to them now, but I dismissed them for about 5 or 6 years, just saying software catalog, a catalog you send out and you pick things out of. Nah, that won't take off. So anyway, obviously my predictions didn't go well.
Can we say Andy and Mark says Softcat are cowboys? Yeah, sort of set that up as the title of this pod, and everyone's like, "Oh, I'm quite interested to know what they."
Oh, dear.
Sorry, Graham.
Andrew, you've obviously had a glittering rugby career as a professional player, but I'm curious to find out after that, how did you get into the Iit industry? Because was there a link already?
It was very kind of you to say glittering. I think there was a few moments, but most of it was the fight, the slog. I did a lot of comebacks, if that makes sense. Messed it up, and then you have to prove yourself again and come back. So yeah, so it wasn't. It was a big roller coaster, but brilliant fun, right? I mean, running around a pitch with your mates was, and then getting paid to do it was an absolute dream. So I've only worked for 11 years. I spent 16 years killing my body and killing myself, and the rugby lads would laugh at that. They'd be like, "You didn't tackle, so let's be honest. You're okay." But yeah, so I remember joining Quins and thinking I really need to get out a bit more, and I was always doing it at every club. I was interested because my dad was an entrepreneur. I was always interested who's sponsoring, who's supporting the club, because it became professional. We needed private investment. So Tom Walkinshaw, TWR, Gloucester. Yeah, it was fascinating. I love Formula One. Absolutely. I didn't at the time, but since that time and where F1 is, I absolutely love it. But it was that business of just meeting people like Tom Walkinshaw and just going, wow, okay, this is how you operate and behave. The absolute professionalism of these individuals, how serious they were. So I was kind of like a sponge then. I was like, right, let's go and meet more and more people. So I remember saying to my dad, do you want me to help? And he was like, yeah, no, only if you want to. I was like, not sure what I want to do, but if I can support, how about we take some sort of corporate hospitality? And he was like, yeah, let's look at it. So we did, and we playing at the Stoop right opposite Twickenham Stadium just was obvious. And I just got to know while I was still playing, I at the end, I wasn't being picked by England, but still playing, and you're doing corporate hospitality, and so I would turn up, and our clients were there, and just got to know them, and then I'd ask them questions about our business, and say, what do you think? Why do you use us? And just trying to I was a consultant. I was just like literally so, and it's a theme in my life, so inquisitive. And then they'd answer it. I go, I'm really sorry. In rugby terms, we'd try and describe something, and people would look at you, civilians would look at you and go, I have no idea what you just said, because we'd have our own articulate language, and people wouldn't understand it. So I found that in business, I was kind of like, what did you just say? Could you just do that in dummy language, please? And then they would be kind enough to sort of support me. So they became friends. Dad's clients became friends, and then it sort of was just seamless from that moment on. I had a startup business. I tried to create back in 2007. So Twitter had only just started, and we tried to create a sort of a sporting Facebook, if you like, for all grassroots clubs, so that they could connect and communicate, and parents and children, and just this whole ecosystem. And it seems crazy now, right? Because everyone uses WhatsApp, so I thought I didn't have the business plan clearly, but I had a couple of ideas, and so I just brought them to Dad's business basically. And Dad said N2S is this Christmas 20 years old. So it's kind of a really nice story, and also I learned a massive lesson, which I knew about in sport anyway, which is trust is everything. The trust in the people that you work with, and I found that with obviously Dad's company.
Fantastic. Now let's touch on the rugby for a minute, because high performance is measured in sport, and I often get asked, in fact I get asked a lot, if I can find either recruits if they've had some sporting career where they've been in the captain of the football team or the basketball team or the cricket team or whatever it is, or they've been part of a team. Do you think there should be more crossover into the IT industry around sort of sport, and how they can sort of further incorporate these behaviors? Because I get a lot of companies ask me about people that are either in team events or team sports at school or at college or whatever, or if they've been captain of the rugby team or the football team, they're obviously seeing that as leadership qualities, and they're trying to incorporate into their team. So do you think there's a big crossover?
I think there is, yeah. And I can only speak from our experience, because it was natural to do that, because you're on the sideline Saturday, Sunday, it's kind of there's your recruitment right there,
Yeah.
And at the end of my career, I wanted to support a charity, so I supported the Royal Marines, because I learned a huge amount in 1 week with the Marines and the SBS. I learned more in that week than I probably did in my whole rugby career.
Really?
And yeah, it was unbelievable, proper leadership. And I think sport, so business will look at sport, but I think they're missing a trick as well from the other institution that I'm familiar with, which is the military. These guys, when I was talking to them, they'd served and they were running a team of 300 people, so they were classic perfect ops, but their CV did not reflect that, and I was giving them confidence, because I was saying, the person that's interviewing you has never ever experienced something like that. Sorry, my light's just gone out. Has never experienced that. So you need to really hit home on that. That is like under the most challenging of life experiences. That's not IT and you're a distributor or a reseller.
Yeah.
That's not pressure. That's easy. You, under the highest pressure, have delivered to 300 of your staff. That's phenomenal, and I just underestimate. So I think there's a real parallel from the two institutions, if you like, back into business. And I I must admit, part of my recruitment has been that. So military and sport, and what I'm proud of. It hasn't been a lot of people, but I'm proud of the fact that I took them from those environments when they didn't know themselves where to go.
Yeah.
And after 2 years, they got poached, and they were sort of half gutted to sort of say, Andy, I'm moving on because, you know, they're going to pay me double what you're paying me. And I'm like, good luck. Well done. I'm proud that I've got you on that path. And there's been a few instances I'm really like that I'll treasure for it. And that stemmed from, you know, I've got an amazing mentor in my old man, and he's always done that. He's dragged people off the streets. I'm a trustee to a charity called School of Hard Knocks, and you know, I got that from my old man. He was kids fighting on the street on a Saturday night. He'd drag them to mini rugby on a Sunday and sort of teach them the discipline of rugby, and that wasn't what you should be doing. And then suddenly they're captain of the club, and then suddenly they're in the Channel as MDs, right? I mean, it's phenomenal. So I'm a sort of a big believer in that. I think sport, you know, you always know a good leader when the listening intent of people. There's that feeling, that physical body language. You just know this person's a proper leader, and you've got to articulate that. What's coming out of the mouth is important, but it's also that physical stature and presence. And it can be taught, it can be coached, but I think it's really natural as well in some people. It really is natural. So yeah, so I think we do it. I think the Channel does do it, but could they do more of it? I'd love them to do more, because I've sat with Olympians and they don't know what they want to do next. It's a massive opportunity.
Yeah, it's funny, Andrew, and again,
I'm giving you a future business here.
Well, I'm gonna be a completely candid. So, for instance, if you'd have come to me for a job, I'd have said I wouldn't have got you a job. I'd be like, I can't get a rugby player a job. Or if someone had said to me, "Oh, I've been 10 years in the military," I'd be saying, "Oh, I can't get him the job in the Channel because of the CV." They would look at it and think, "Oh, Mark, you know, Andrew, yeah, he's been playing for Quins. No,
whatever.
You know, whatever. You might be able to chuck a ball around, but you know, can he do the Channel? Can he do anything?" But there's a lot of that all the time. And how do you think? You know, you touched on it obviously, and you've got an affiliation with it. But like I said, if I'm a recruitment company and I was getting CV, if I got a CV from a cricket player, rugby player, or someone from the military, unfortunately, I would dismiss it. I'd be thinking the Channel just wouldn't look at them because I've got to train them. They don't want to pay recruitment fees, and yet they could be better than any applicant they've got. Why is there not that appetite to even consider, especially with the shortages at the moment, for in fact any diverse talent, anything that's slightly different? Why is there not the appetite to take them on?
I think it's risk and it's investment, right? Those are the two things that people aren't comfortable with. Risk is definitely one, that it failed, and that's a human nature. And then the other is, how much is it going to cost? And we don't have the budget. So go familiarity, you know, just hire the person that CV barks out. And, you know, we've done that as well, and it hasn't worked. So I think there's a combination there. But I think if you choose on character and you get a sense of feeling, that doesn't always work. But I always take responsibility that you didn't train them well enough, or you didn't get them in the right role. But I think most of the time you won't be let down. My feeling, and certainly the team sports environment, because that's where I've come from. But a dependent on the role, they're not going to let you down. Same with the military guys. They have this resilience and never give up attitude, which I see every single day in the Channel. Just giving up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for a minute I thought you were gonna say in the Channel I see that I never give up attitude, and I was thinking, I don't know actually, Andrew, because I see a lot of people giving up in the Channel and just earn easy money for not doing a lot. Unfortunately, that happens all over the Channel, but that's another podcast show.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you worked and played under one of the greatest coaches that's ever been, since Clive Woodward. What made him so special, and what did you learn, or what have you implemented in your own business?
That's a great question. I mean, Sir Clive talks about the DNA of a champion, and he really dug deep into that. And the art of building a successful team fundamentally is recruitment, right? Getting the right people in the right room and in the right position. And he was relentless with that, absolutely relentless. So hence why he took people out of their comfort zones, and he surrounded them also with greatness as well, so that they were inspired, and created a cocktail really of teamship. When we called it one team when we went to the World Cup, he created that, and he had support to do it. He'd be the first to say, but it was unrelenting, right? So it's high performance in a way is that constant and unrelenting improvement, and the growth mindset. So anyone with a fixed mindset was gone. Any sappers that sapped the environment, gone. It was an inspiring place to be. It was challenging. It was hard. It was horrific at times. I'm not going to say I loved it all the time. It was almost, if there was a Mordor in our day, some days turning up at the gates and going through the gates, you were like, oh my God, what is going to happen here? This is going to be brutal.
Really?
Yeah, brutal. It's a high pressure environment, nerve wracking. Everyone that goes through that gate believes they're the best. He has to select from a number of players. You knew how emotional it was going to be, not being selected, or then the pressure of being selected. We had support, but it's not the support and level like it is today. It's a different world, different game. So there was huge amounts of pressure, but I always remember we'd get a card before a game when we were selected, and he'd have the goals for the game on written down. But the last one was always, every time, consistent, was enjoy. And I see teams that and I see businesses, and they don't look like they're enjoying it. And I think that's a big missing link that we have. It's not saying have a laugh, have fun, mess around. It's just enjoy what you do, bring it. And people tell me, God, what you're doing and how you express it is so infectious. And I'm just like, that's just my life. It's like, if I wouldn't do it if I wasn't all in, and it meant the world to me and everything to me. I just wouldn't. And you sort of articulate it and position it in yourself, and then that's everything. And that is being a champion at the end of the day, is unrelenting pursuit of perfection, which doesn't exist, because that creates unhappiness. But and that Johnny Wilkinson speaks about that cliff of getting to that perfection, winning the World Cup, and it's all over. And it's like, what do I look forward to next? And it's really deep and incredible, but you don't become a world champion without it in a lot of ways. So I think that the team rules we had, and the pulling together and driving each other to be the best, was what Clive did. And it was an amateur game. Clive had worked in business. I think was really, really important. So he'd worked for Rank Xerox back in the day. So shout out to Xerox for that. She was selling photocopiers. I mean,
yeah, photocopier salesperson.
but he'll kill me for that. But he had that experience in another world as well. Because I was always intrigued to know how businesses run, and actually the irony was businesses would look at us, go, "How do you do it? And how are you run?" And so I think that's got closer. But yeah, I think that helped massively as well, the context of another world. Because when you're in something and you've got no context of everything else, I think it's very difficult to grow and widen and broaden.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I did a bit of investigating, and I'm a massive, massive boxing fan. Everyone knows that. And I noticed on your Twitter, there was a picture of one of my heroes, Muhammad Ali. So, am I right in thinking you met him, or how did you get to meet him? So, tell me about that story, or is it just a fake picture, Andrew?
No, it's somebody reached out to me and said that you're in the top 10 in the world of the coolest photos, for your Twitter. I was like, yeah, I agree, because it's got my hero, Muhammad Ali. So I did get to meet him. I have a photo album that next time we meet, I will bring, and you will be blown away how lucky I was. So how it happened was my dad again, the legend Jack, I was born in Durham. He worked in Newcastle, and he was part of a boxing club, and they all got wasted one night and said, we need to raise some money for charity. What should we do? And some bright spark said, yeah, we should invite Muhammad Ali. I'm sure he's flying over here. Let's invite him. He's in the boxing club. Yeah. So this is on TV. You can look it up now. You can Google it. It'll be on BBC iPlayer or something. It was basically Ali's tour of the North. And so these guys wrote to him, and he actually wrote back and said, yeah, I'll come over. And they were like,
no way.
It's got to be a joke. Anyway, he did, and
wow.
The plane lands, and they had to get 3 more buses because he brought an entourage with him. So the cost suddenly, it wasn't just Ali, it was his entire entourage. And it was I don't remember it other than the photos, obviously, and I've seen some of the footage, and you can see my old man there. And I have a photo album, so there's a picture of Ali renewing his vows with, I think it would have been second or third wife, and he's cutting the cake at this ceremony, and there's me in the background. I mean,
brilliant.
little SHIT just wandering around. I was 5 or 6, and there's a press conference as well he was holding, and I was under the table at the hotel playing with my train set. And apparently he stopped the press conference and he dragged me from under the table and sat me on his lap in the press conference. And he said, continue. And I like, how lucky am I to be that child, but also typical scrum half, just annoying people and being, being at their ankles. And so I have this unbelievable sort of photo album. And I've got do you remember a guy called Dave Boy Green, who was a boxer? So Dave Boy Green, I had his t-shirt on, Dave Boy Green. I got to meet him latterly in life. And so now you know where sort of the pursuit of trying to be the best and never, when you get knocked and all that sort of stuff, and you're feeling sorry for yourself, I was like, what would Ali do? What would Ali think? And it was just, couldn't have been, thanks to Dad and the family, couldn't have been a better hero to look up to and have. So very, very blessed. I could go on for another 10 days talking about this and beyond, but
we'll do that
over
in the studio.
every beer, but it was amazing. So that's inspiring for me. That's if you say no to me, watch out, because I'm just going to keep coming.
I'll see you in Beaconsfield High Street. So let's talk about. Let's move on. Let's talk about sustainability and social conscience, because for those of us or the listeners that are unaware of N2S, can you give us the listeners a bit of background about the business?
Yeah, so we've Dad set it up, telecoms and voice, right? So long ago and prehistoric, the birth of it was, because we're talking about IT and technology, and data centers didn't really exist, sort of things. So it was all about telco. So we have a big link into BT as an example, and we're part of one of the biggest decoms and transformations in the UK, which is their telephone exchange network. 6,500 to 7,000 buildings will be redundant in the next 10, 15 years. We won't need them. as the PSTN closes. So that's where the business is stemmed from, and we're still scratching the surface on that one, right? There's a lot of copper, there's a lot of kit coming out, and so N2S have created a new innovation to recycle that stuff. So that's I remember asking one of the BT guys, why are these cards called Type 62? And for anyone that's in telecom or that's listening to this will know exactly what that is. And they said, well, it was manufactured in 1962. I was like, oh my God. So we're still taking that stuff out, right? And we've created a new innovation to extract those metals, the precious metals. Because you imagine they're big circuit boards, big chips. I have one to hand actually in the office, and we today we incinerate that and we burn it and we use acids, aqua regia, which is the worst. Now that has been a solution forever. Big businesses, billion dollar businesses are built on that. But in the world of net zero now, we can't keep doing it, right? It's polluting. So we've created a new system to refine those metals from the board using bacteria. Is absolutely the purest way of extraction, and we need to scale that as quickly as possible. So I'm really lucky, and that's going to be Dad's legacy. It really is. It's phenomenal new. Right, it's not new technology actually. It's been used in mining, and we're calling it the urban mine. Here, you've heard it here first, channel. Welcome to the urban mine. We've got to stop digging the planet to make technology. That's one of my missions. We need to sell technology that has come from a sustainable source, i.e. Recycled metals. And everyone talks about plastic still. I'm like, move on. It's the metals world needs to connect to manufacturing of this technology. And I've just had a vendor meeting this morning to get to that next stage. So it's really exciting. Like our new slogan is redefining the tech life cycle. We have to redefine it. The channel sells technology and they sell a lot. They just don't take it back. So N2S is 20 years old this Christmas. It still feels like a startup. We still feel like we're not being used. You still feel nobody knows you. And it's not about the brand or anything, although we are creating next month a new sister company called Bioscope Technologies, because the future for us is in clean tech. We're a clean tech business moving forward. But we need feed. We need the equipment back. So the channel needs to sell something but get something back. And today that just doesn't happen. It's sort of sporadic, if you like, at best.
Andrew, why are you so passionate about sustainability? What's it made you sort of think, actually, you mentioned it's my mission to do that. Why is it become your mission? Why is it about sustainability? It's not the sexiest of subjects. It's not the sexiest.
I think it is. I think it is. You see, I've become a bit of a carbon geek. That's because I met a doctor of embodied carbon called Stephen Finnegan, and he's an absolute legend. Been doing carbon reporting for 20, 30 years, and we've got something in common that 20, 30 years ago no one cared, right? And no one cared about recycling. No, but do you know what I mean? So I do care about it, because the way that we are all going is just as consumers and the big companies that make products and everything, we're really on fossil fuels, and it's a wide statement, but we're going the wrong way. We still are, and we're not reducing. So I've become a bit obsessed by how do we reduce? Not many, the channel won't know this, but UK net zero 2050, fine, first government to sign up to it. But actually by 2035, depending on your size, and we were alluding to SMBs that won't be applicable, but actually if you add up all the SMEs in the UK, it's a big carbon emission, but they individually, they don't care potentially, and they don't see the necessity to look at it and do it. But we have to, by 2035, reduce our carbon emissions by 78%. And the point being is, how can you reduce it by 78% when no one knows what the hell their baseline is today?
Yeah.
And so 3 years ago, we set up a consultancy to support, rather than go to EY, KPMG, et cetera. And it's an absolute sort of minefield and so expensive. We are supporting the channel today, consulting on their net zero baseline and reporting on their carbon emissions, scope 1, 2, and 3. And I wanted to bring that to the channel, the tech sector, because I do think it's important. And I think that we're all running around going, okay, certainly of the size, you know, the top 100 will have to do it. It's law. They have to put this on their tax return at the end of the year, that what their carbon emissions are. But that's scope 1 and 2, right? That's your employees' travel, transportation, the energy you buy. So buying renewable will help. Scope 3 is everything else. And you just look at the channel. So from China and Taiwan, the manufacturing, the shipping, the flights, to the equipment to the UK, distribution, reseller channel, SIs, service providers. By the way, the customer hasn't even got it yet.
Yeah.
When you add it all up, it's frightening. And then, by the way, that stops then when the customer has it in life, or it doesn't stop, but it stops for them that have sold it, the in-life management, and then the end of life. People don't have any interest. I'm like, wow. So when you look at the scope 3, we're in scope 3. We are there. And actually, we're finding some companies, we're second or third in their carbon emissions because they don't do it properly at the end of life. So there's a real narrative there. But, you know, a lot of people say greenwashing. And my response to that is it's better to label than not to label. And the foundations that it's built on need updating. So greenhouse gas protocol was only really 2006, then updated 2011. So it's 11 years old now. So that has no inflationary sort of amendments. So it needs a refresh. So it's better to label on an old system, but it's going to become a new system, than not do it at all and be that company that reacts too late. Because actually the supply chains will start to demand it. Microsoft are already demanding it of their manufacturing and their supply chain. They're demanding it. And so what was great about going to COP26 and being inspired around that backdrop of COP26, really, it was the first time I'd ever been. I mean, you said why. I studied tourism at a university, marketing management and tourism, go figure. And so I did care about the planet. I love the planet, and we're absolutely killing it. Our seas, our waters, you know, deforestation. We cut down 7 more trees than we plant 1. You know, so we're messing our planet up, and it's a fact. So what does that mean in technology terms, right? And that's all I'm trying to do, is position it for companies and their employees to care, as a humane matter of fact. You're not having to be paid and remunerated to care. Just care, because it's your future's children that's going to really suffer if we don't do something about it. And it can be small, doesn't matter. You can go back into your own organization and push the board. What are we doing, without fear of being, you know, walked off the premise. So I am passionate about it. I think there's a massive mindset step change that needs to occur.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of the Channel Chat podcast. And now a few words from our sponsor.
Channel Chat is brought to you by Convergent Technology. The Convergent team is made up of experienced and innovative IT professionals. Our mission is to disrupt the traditional reseller market, and we want the most aspirational salespeople to join our team as part of our journey. We know IT sales has a bad rep, so we've created a rewarding culture with the best remuneration and career progression in the industry. Check out convergenttechnology.com for more info.
Andrew, you mentioned about caring, right, and doing the right thing, and I completely agree with you. This is the view I have from the channel about it, because on the Channel Chat show, we have a lot of topics that we talk about, sustainability being one of them. And this is my view. The vendors are saying, oh, we've got to be sustainable. We're putting this messaging out and there's going to be rebates and we're going to do this packaging and it's all going to be perfect, etc., etc.
Yep.
By the time that gets down to the partner, they are not interested at all in that at all. It's not even on their radar.
Yeah.
What bit of advice would you give to them, even if it was just on a humane level, to sort of say how they can start caring and start doing something about it? Because I know this, I've spoken to enough partners, and it's definitely not on their radar. They're not thinking. They're just thinking, is it going to cost more? You know, is it going to cost more to be, you know, more sustainable or packaging? And they're looking at the messages from the vendors, and it's almost like the vendors are being politicians, and that doesn't happen on the streets. So how can they be more caring, and what can they do straight away to make a difference?
Well, my response to that, I'd ask you the question. Clearly, they're not talking to their clients. The clients are going to be demanding this. You know, they've got a choice of who they buy off in the future. And I know it's coming, and I've seen it. And I spoke to a number of salespeople in a reseller, and I said, are you not being asked this question? And they were, no, we're not.
No.
And then you speak to somebody else in that org and they go, yeah, we are.
Really? In the same organisation? They are being asked it?
Yeah. So there's a sort of, we have to be careful and sensitive, but there's this fear of discussing it, a fear of the unknown. And we feed these sales people PDFs and platforms and portals like robots to talk about this, sell this. And I kind of look at it, and when I'm on the rugby pitch and I've read a PDF, go do, and I'm a robot, I'll get some sort of performance, but it's all right. I'm told what to do. It's not inspiring. It's not. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm just ticking. It's the classic tick in the boxes.
Yeah.
Did you do this? Did you do that? Tick, 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 tick. I've done that. So why hasn't the customer bought off you? But it's true though, isn't it? I've been with one vendor today saying, you know, the resellers can't tell me the KPIs, you know, why it's not being sold, and the responses. Some do, some don't. But my point being is, stop feeding them the stuff, regurgitating, because the customer knows you're coming. The customer doesn't want to talk about that. Let them go off and find out and make those decisions. Talk to them about other things and more humane things that you get closer to your customers. So it tells me the channel aren't close to their customer base. You know, the classic, oh, our customers love us and blah, blah, blah. We've won this award. I'm not sure they do love you. They don't love you because they're going to choose somebody else that's cheaper than you tomorrow. And it's happening all over the shop. And it's kind of that repeat. How do you know? So some of them at the top have got it, right? They get the repeat contracts over and over again. So they're doing something different. The kind of transactional ones they're not seeing. And I'm just saying the whole lot have got to deliver something. And you make it unique to yourself, but you are going to be measured. And that's what's going to be interesting. Who's doing the measuring? Don't know yet. But it's coming. And so I just say, you know, you're not confident about talking about it, but neither was I. But I would be inquisitive, ask the questions. Don't be fearful of asking the questions. I know in my world, when I go into a customer, we've got it sorted, Andy. Sorted. We recycle. So if I just took that as verbatim, I wouldn't have a business. It's nonsense. And so you educate, you articulate, you keep at, and they go, no, you're right, I'm not doing it, and I don't know who it is, and no one's responsible. Can we sort this out? So I think it's funny, isn't it? Because I spoke to a big consultancy and a guy that is a bit of a guru on this, and his podcast is called Death of a Salesman. And I just think sustainability and everything around it, and it's so broad and wide. Don't get me wrong. And I've seen as now some sort of subject matter expert. I'm still learning. I'm you know, I feel still clueless about it. speak for hours on it and articulate exactly what that is. I've still got a long way to go, but it's the authentic selling that I find it's missing. And I think sales orgs, if you are an organization and you bring in some specialists to help your sales and your employees and teach and understand what the things they can do sustainably, I think that empowers them then to then go and just have an open discussion like a human being. All right, Mark, what do you do on this? What do you do that? Have you got an EV? What have you, that challenge with that? And it opens up discussions, and then suddenly you're selling IoT to them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, for me, it doesn't feel rocket science at all. So I think I also know the future of recruitment because one of my best friends has a tech recruitment business, and he's being, so you were going to ask me about a question of the best question that's been asked in an interview, and the other day he got asked by Gen Y, what's your environmental policy?
I bet you. It's like, don't ask me that.
And guess what?
Don't ask me that.
Yeah, and guess what? She got the job.
Yeah.
And she's one of the top performers now. And I'm like, that's so cool. If somebody asked me that and put me on the spot and went, do you know what? I don't know that answer in my own business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a big uppercut from Ali. That is a big uppercut. So yeah. So I just know it's coming, and it's the way it's going to be. ITIL 4. People will know what I'm talking about there. Sustainability is embedded in everything now, and if you're not on the frameworks, properly reporting, properly having a roadmap, being able to articulate it, and you need people that are subject matter experts, not we outsource it and blah blah blah, and no one can talk about it in this organization. It's fake, so you've got to embed it in your business. And when you do, it's awesome. I'm super excited about it. I'm more excited about, forget what we're winning or whatever. I'm more excited about where we're going and how we're doing it. That's what I'm excited about.
Do you think the smaller businesses have the sort of financial clout to be more sustainable? I.e., you might talk about, what's your policy? And I might be thinking, actually, someone's got to do that, and then it's going to cost, and it's going to be, that's a real pain in the ass to do that, Andrew. And then and it's all like this sort of policy. And I'm thinking, can I afford to do that? Can I afford to be sustainable? What's your view to those sort of small organisations that think, well, actually, I'd like to be, but it's going to cost money?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to describe that is it's coming in tenders. So if you're a company that responds to tenders, it's coming. It's here today, and people will talk about that. What's interesting is, how is that then being marked in procurement terms? Do the procurement people that have asked that question understand how to mark it? That's a big question. I'm not sure is out there, quite frankly. This whole sustainability is quite Wild West right now, but that's exciting as well. I'm like, yeehaw, let's go. So, but and that's where trust comes in. I mentioned it right at the outset. Trust is everything. So you're having to respond to these things in tenders. What do you do when you want to win that bid in a tender? You go and deliver it. You go and write it. You go and make sure it happens, whether it's retrospective or in the moment. You do it. Yeah. So what's the difference going to be when a customer asks you that question and they say you've got 2 years to deliver it or you're out? You're going to do it, right? You're going to do it. But it's also, I think, it's those people that are asking those questions to inspire them to get on the journey and start to do it. And yes, it does cost money, and it is an investment. I've done a few barter deals in that regard. It's the way the world works, right? I'll turn up and do something if somebody will do the same for me, and vice versa. That's what was very special about COP26, is everyone realized, no matter whether you're a 20 billion revenue business with 300,000 employees, or myself that's tiny turnover and 100 people, we're all in it together, and we've got to deliver something to one another. And that to me was like, wow, okay, now this is exciting. This is quite cool. So it's a lot of work. It's relenting work. unrelenting, the amount of effort and work that needs to be done. But actually, I see it as opportunistic as well. So, some of my staff are having to look at it now as part of their another 20% that they're giving me. So they're already giving me 100%, but they're now giving me an extra 20% on something aligned to this. Then we mark the homework, we have a discussion, and we go from there. So I think that's also cementing future roles, and that's recruitment, right? So there is a dearth of ESG sustainability gurus out there. There just is. So if every company has one, guess what's going to spike? Yeah. That world. And how do you know? I know one in the channel that's already, after 7 months, got rid of the sustainability person because it was the wrong person. So that company's wasted a year, felt like. So it's like, find me the right people that have got the skills. So, I talk about my children having, educating them with a skill set that they can quickly learn to be able to deliver a job that doesn't exist today. That's happening in life now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the ESG moment. So if there's great opportunity in it, that's my point. And there's a lot of work to do, because when you're reporting on carbon, if you make an acquisition, you've got to do it again. It's just ever evolving, because that's more carbon emissions you've just sucked in and bought. And that comes back to the investment and valuation. So everyone's going, it costs money. It's going to improve your share price, guys, because you're going to be ESG rated. That makes you more valuable. So it's a worthy investment, right? And that's happening today. One of my best friends has a fund for ESG sustainable companies, and they have to tick a criteria. I'd have thought that was mainstream moving forward. It's still not. No. That's a specialist fund. I'm like, wow, we're still at the start of it, and it's cool to me. It's so cool.
Let's talk about social conscience, because I know a lot of tech businesses that see a lot of tech businesses that are taking advantage of the sort of the low pay, poor working conditions in factories. How does this reconcile with their desire to have a social conscience? What's your view on that?
Well, it's just all built on, the pressure of money at the end of the day, and making it viable. It's an ever competing market. So your overheads and your costs are absolutely critical to your margin, if you're allowed to make margin, right? Because there's some very thin margins out in the tech space. So I get it and understand it. I think it's evolving, and I think that's where the sustainability leaders are coming in. And there are some issues in the channel that they are all over. I can't get to them at the moment because they have serious issues to look at, of where this material is coming from. And it's I always highlight. So I was a big during lockdown. I was like Netflix and Amazon Prime documentaries on this stuff. I was like just watching everything, right? And some of the stuff I saw on the illegal mining is, it was literally all linked in the US. So the gold in the US that probably is in our phones, right, without naming vendors. You get where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
That gold that was in the manufacturing of a generation of phones, mobile phones, could be linked back to illegally mined, drug cartel, money laundered gold back into the US. Fact. I was just like, this is brilliant. You couldn't make it up, right? But the channel, I would post on LinkedIn, right? I'd post Dad and I at Twickenham, in the change room or something, and I get 30, 40,000 views, which is really nice. It's really good. It's a proud moment, Then I'd post something about this and I'd get like 100 views.
Yeah, no one's interested.
Everyone's like, don't tell the truth. That's just boring. Just you've really soured this conversation. How depressing. I know I'm an inspiring individual. I didn't mean to depress you. but I was like, that's true. It's true, right? And so I think we retrospectively, now are looking back going, oh God, that's why I love Microsoft. They're kind of going, we're going to repay all the carbon we've taken, right? Carbon capture I was like, high five, amazing.
Yeah,
right. It's amazing how they obviously their carbon emissions have gone up. COVID to, you know, the pre and now everyone's back and things are happening, supply chain, it's gone up, right? Carbon, and they've been honest and said it's gone up. So I think there's yeah, it's not great, is it? But it's just the ugliness and the truth of the world. And that's why I say we've got a massive job on it. Like, that's why I'm on a mission, because what I'm portraying is unbelievable turnaround. And it is a redefining of this life cycle, a product life cycle. Everyone talks about product life cycle, but nobody, when they're using it, is measuring it. And then when they're dumping it, is measuring it, right? So we're just hiding. I call it see no evil, hear no evil. We're just hiding. Like, so we're not gonna, if we hide it, we're not gonna fix it. So it is a redefining of the life cycle. And I'm just at the start of trying to redefine it. But I'm like cool with calling it out, because we've all done it. We're all guilty of it. So it's okay to get over that. It's the next step to try and reroute it. You change it. And that's the bit that, you know, so the resellers would look at me and going, well, get on with it. We resell technology. Just get on with it. I'm like, okay, but you can manage and do the in-life and the manage. You want to become a managed service. You want to be a device as a service, subscription, all of that stuff. You want services, not product, CapEx revenue. I get it, but somebody still owns it. Somebody owns the asset.
Yeah.
And so we've still got that challenge and problem. So I want the resellers to put the pressure on the vendors, you know, distribution and play a part, but then it's kind of distribution putting pressure on the vendors. And I think it's going to come. I really do think it's going to come, because I know some of the hard work that is going on behind the scenes in the channel. And there are some real standout companies. They really are. But they're also scratching the surface themselves, right? That's what I'm going. This is mind blowing how much of a shift change this is. It really is. And I'm just a small cog in this. I'm out there just being honest about it. I'm just saying I'm a small cog. I'm definitely part of the solution, but I'm a small cog, and I need your help to put the pressure on, as well as talk about it, as well as help with the solution. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about N2S for a minute, because during lockdown, your headcount grew quite dramatically.
60 to 100 we went. Yeah.
60 to 100, you know, that's 40%. So how come you had that sort of growth, and when lots of companies were pausing hiring or even cutting hiring, where was that growth coming from?
I think, if I'm truthful to ourselves, we have been sort of scratching the surface for a long time. We've been growing year on year, but it's nothing impressive. And you know, one of the things that Dad said to me when I first came into the business was, this is going to be your best lesson in life, right? A proper SME business, you know, win business, turn a profit, move on. You know, it's kind of that. And he was so right. It was like, you know, first lesson in cash flow. It was like, oh my God, you know, and the models were challenging, because you're bereft of feedback. We get this for free. And you're like, I provided an unbelievable professional service, in my opinion. Obviously, it's still got work to do, and it wasn't unbelievable professional service, but you know what I mean? It's definitely getting there. It's continuous improvement, just like any, you know, the sporting background. We're always trying to improve it. We're not perfect. But that costs money. I've got a massive overhead. Are you serious? You're getting this for free. So I knew the model and the marketplace was skewing it. It was wrong. So we very thankful to the customer base we have. And I will always be indebted to them, because, you know, it wasn't just COVID, the challenge of COVID. It's just the challenge of cash flow and running a business, and, you know, greater demands on your service, greater demands on accreditations, all of that stuff costs a whole heap of money, let alone me going off on net zero journeys. So the truth of the matter is realistically, demand grew from the business we already had, as well as winning as well as winning hearts and minds channel to market. And I am a channel business, but the problem we have, and I think most ITADs will have, and I'm partly an ITAD. I'm still new to it, so we're with the world of ADISA. We're becoming a ADISA member. We've never been an ADISA member. We felt we never needed it, and Steve Mellings, who runs it, sort of said, "You've got the government accreditation. You don't need another one. It costs you money." But now with what he's achieved with that, so we're going to be an ADISA accredited. So I think that's really important to support the market. But in truth, we weren't refurbishing and reselling products. That's part of the triage of outcomes, is you reuse something. But we were a fully fledged recycler. We loved recycling. That's where we come from, and our innovation is around that. But what I'm always trying to say is there is a life cycle that it's either beyond economic repair or it runs its life. It's done. A piece of hardware lasts maybe 15 years. It's done. So it has to be recycled, and the maturity of the market and understanding all the way what it is still trying to mature. It wasn't there. Because I don't know whether you know, Mark, but in the UK, in terms of e-waste, we are the second largest exporter globally. We containerize e-waste and ship it. We don't do it internally in the UK, right? Major vendors do not do it in the UK. It's fact. We are shipping it. And so I'm, with Brexit and everything, I'm going, no, UK, stop getting rid of it. So that's why we have that innovation, because if you're going to report on the technology we're talking on, if you're going to report on it, 70 to 90% of the embodied carbon is in the PCB, and we ship that stuff. We ship it for burning in China, Japan, Europe. And it's like, why would we do that? That's a massive jobs growth opportunity, clean tech. That's the mission that we're on with UK Gov, the support of our customers. So that's where we've seen it from. We've seen hearts and minds grow with us to know we're trying to fulfill a new generation and a clean tech business, rather than it being that filthy world that you recycle and it's just ugly. We're not. We are white coats laboratory, breaking it down into the beautiful colors of the periodic table, copper, gold, right? I mean, that could not be more beautiful. It's not dirty, muddy, and I think that the channel thought that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
Steel toe caps, ugly, chuck it in a shredder. No, come and see us, understand what we're doing, because it is revolutionary and it's clean and it's beautiful. And Dad always said we recycle with finesse, and I was like, oh God, that sounds like good marketing jargon, the old man. But he's absolutely right. It's finesse, and it's and that's what we're bringing to the market and changing the mindset. So hence why the growth, and very fortunate to have the support of two new shareholders as well, who absolutely are love this world that we're creating and forging. So it's very exciting times for us.
Awesome. Skill shortages in the market. I don't know. I know you've probably done some hiring. Obviously, you've done a lot of hiring yourself. So I've got a couple of quick fire questions to see how good your answers are, Andrew. When interviewing, how can a candidate really impress you?
So number one for me is always attitude. So I look for that in CVs, which is hard to articulate attitude in CVs, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really is hard. So funny enough, I go to the hobbies and what are you interested in? And sometimes I think on the CV it's kind of like you've seen a list of the multiple choice, and you've kind of chosen a couple of multiple choices. What you think I want somebody who's really passionate and interested in it. It might be beekeeping. Do not care. Like, you are the number one guru in beekeeping. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, I want to know, because that's no problem. That's cool. Like, that's something.
But will that get you an interview? If I sent you a CV saying Mark's the chief beekeeping expert of the UK.
No.
It's hard to get that across. How does someone get?
Of course not. But if you've got a list of 20 to 100 CVs, you've got to whittle it down. No one's got the bandwidth if you don't have a massive HR team and a recruitment team. No one's got the bandwidth, so you have to whittle it down, don't you? And that might be visually looking at it. It might you know, a diversity, you know, conundrum it might be, but they've got to have, you know, some sort of link to experience and education in the job that you're going to get them. So they're going to get through, but that's my point is where it comes down to it. It's like you want to hire character, and attitude is just so important. And that's come from the sports background. It's like, you know, what more I'm working for them. What more can I give you? What more can I do for you? It's like that constant, you know, that's the sort of attitude. We're not the other way around. It just saps the life out of me. It really does.
It is hard. It is hard to get that from a CV, but I do know what you mean. Say, for instance, right, they've got the right attitude. They've come to the interview, and they're getting in front of you. What is the best question the candidate's ever asked you? Interview question.
Why have you got a haircut like that? and so I'd be like, that's hilarious. No, now you've got a sense of humour. Now you're on my wavelength. Yeah, and it's you know, they'd be like, I've done some due diligence on you, and do you realise that you're on the top hits of the worst kicks in world rugby history?
Stop it.
And I'd be like, cheers, thanks very much for that. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like that sort of, that's bravery, right? That's bravery, rather than going, oh my God, you're a wonderful player and all that stuff. You know, it's like that sort of derogatory banter. I'm like, yeah, you're in. That's good.
Do you like someone being authentic in the interview? I can say, "Oh, Andrew, you're such a great rugby player." But now, honestly, I'm not interested in rugby. I told you, I like boxing and football, so I'm interested in rugby. But do you like that raw, authentic honesty, or do you? No one likes sycophants. You know, oh, you're brilliant, but
it's just
you don't mind that rawness in an interview.
Yeah, no, it's the quirk, but it just shows the real person and the because it does take time. So you hire somebody and then you get to know them, and the worst thing that can happen is you get to know them and you're like, oh God, that's not the right person in the team, or they're in the wrong position.
Yeah.
So I want to see that straight away. I want to know the person. Almost you want to ask the question, which sounds awful, is like, what are the problems in your life? Do you know what I mean? It's like, what are they? Because we've all got them, right? I've got major issues and challenges in my life, major. And it's so hard, but it doesn't stop me being positive and being nice to people and being kind and all that stuff. But you almost want to know that before you hire somebody. And it's fine, because we're all absolutely messed up and got challenges galore. And, you know, I'm constantly late. I'd rather know that you're constantly late, and, you know, it's fine. I'll help you and work with you. You're a human being. Yeah. It's that, I think what COVID did was brought that humanity. And what I loved was we were all on Zooms and Teams and discussing, and the dog would bark, and and you're like
getting away.
Yeah. Oh my God, you've got a dog. Oh, you know what I mean? It's like, we had to be these sort of professionals wearing V-neck jumpers. It's like, no, you don't. You have to be a human being. It's fine. You know, you've got ripped jeans on underneath. Who cares? I really don't care. I care about you and what you're going to do and what you're going to deliver and how I can help you. So I think that was what was nice on this kind of getting to know people, because I got to know people better, ironically, through the screen, because it was kind of forced upon us.
Yeah.
Because we all turn up in, I've got a jacket on, and, you know, I don't wear a jacket at home. You know what I
mean? Did you get sort of? Everyone was using Zoom all the time. Did you get zoomed out though? Did you sort of like? Because I'm much better in person. I prefer. Yeah. Everyone does prefer personal meetings. But I was getting to the point with the Zoom. I was thinking, I had more anxiety around logging on and being bloody late for the Zoom meeting than anything else. Now, you mentioned about being late. I'm pretty disorganized. So normally what happens is I'll be rushing around, missing trains, getting there late, etc. Being very apologetic.
We're two peas in a pod there.
But normally, I think I've got enough charm to smooth it over. Now, what happens is, on Zoom, you can't do that. So what would happen is, Andrew, I'd go and have a coffee, and I'd just leave the bloke or the lady or whatever just on the meeting, and they'd be like, Mark, you never turned up. It's like, shit, you know, it's like 7 minutes or 10 minutes to go past. But there was no removal of right time, because if you're not logged on at past, you're out, you're late. So how did you sort of deal with that?
Well, I do it where I'd sign on and go, I've just got to make a cup of tea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me 2 minutes, or I've just got to go for a wee. I haven't had it's like back to back, and then you were like 30 seconds late, and you were apologising for being 30 seconds late. It's just madness. So but I didn't get zoomed out. I loved it because I love the interaction with people and learning about people's businesses and just that collaboration. I was a junkie for it. I wanted a full diary, but it is exhausting.
Yeah, it's tiring.
And I didn't wear glasses until recently. So I bought some. Simon Shaw, who I work with, said that I look like Dame Edna Everage now. I didn't wear glasses, and I think that just the constant screen. And old age. But no, I loved it. I really did like it, and I think what's nice now is I had a challenge last night, and I could not have done this meeting today face to face. So we looked at doing it virtually, and I know the effort that I've made to do it, and him too. It was worth it because face to face is so much better. It really is. So
thanks for letting me down today, then.
Yeah, so you weren't going to win me any business, you see. So I'm very cutthroat with this. I'm very cutthroat.
Right. My last question for you, Andrew, and I haven't given you any time to prepare, and you have got big shoes to fill this because Neil Burton's clip, I still love. I think it's the funniest story he's given me. So what is the funniest thing that's happened to you either as a candidate or as a hiring manager during an interview? Is there any funny story you've got?
Crikey, that is a very good question. In an interview, I'm struggling because I don't do many that often, and I tend not to try and ask too many questions because I know I'm going to put my foot in it. So I don't necessarily have anything, and to be honest, it sounded like Neil's was so good. I could come out with one of the best stories in the world, and it still wouldn't be good enough. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that person, right? I just don't want to be that person. But what I promise to do is I'll either make one up for our next one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hold back because you haven't given me any chance, or I didn't read the email, which is the truth. And I'll come back with one, either made up, and then it's for the audience to judge whether I made it up or it was true or not.
Absolutely. So my last comment, then I'd like you to leave listeners with one point, and it is around sustainability. If there's anything they should be considering or they can do overnight, small organisations, partners in the channel, what's the one thing they can initially look at and think, if I can start doing this, I'm making progress?
Well, the first thing is to talk about it. I know companies that have kind of created squads and tribes, and people have volunteered to do that, and they've had sort of meetings. You think, well, they're not selling or they're not doing their job, but actually it's driving a lot of the future of their ESG. So by having that collaboration internally, I think it's a start. And you don't know what gems you've got. Again, coming back to the CV and the interview process, you do not know what gems you've got until you branch out and kind of put them in this environment and inquire and challenge people. So it's definitely worth it. So talking about it, and it not, I do think it's stemming from leadership downwards, but I want it the other way around. I want as well the staff to really challenge. And so the little things, I mean, there's so many little, honestly, Mark, there's so many little things you can absolutely do. And what's cool is now, we're going to be offering support on this for employees. Is there are applications out there that you can measure your own carbon footprint. The 2 coffees I bought today, I can have an app where I can measure exactly what the carbon footprint of that is. That's happening today. And there's really cool innovations out there. So that whole sort of, everyone's like, oh, I'm not going to save the planet and doing this. Well, you can start to measure it, and you can start to define your behaviors by it. A couple of the channel have gone B Corp, which I find interesting. And there are B Corp aisles now in the supermarkets when you go in. What annoys me is it's not very well signposted. but you get interested in that area of how to purchase more responsibly in terms of sustainability. Any of the guys that have ever watched on here, the Seaspiracy, I mean, it just ruined it, you know, and that whole badge about sustainable fishing and sustainable fish is just a nonsense, right? It's because we cannot, there's like millions of boats fishing out there. You can't have the police out there checking how they're fishing. It's just rubbish and nonsense. So we've still got a long way to go to kind of mark that, but I would say there's really cool innovation applications of how you purchase and how you are as a human being. And I think, you know, with COVID, we didn't record that because we were saving the planet by not traveling.
Yeah.
But how that technology and your behaviors and at home, as well as what you do outside, you are going to be able to measure in the future. And I think it's really, really cool. I think it's exciting. You know, it's a change. Can be sometimes more expensive, but it also, and that's where the government need to really support making it more tax efficient to be able to do these things. I bought an EV in 2015, £5,000 grant. It's now £2,500, £2,000. You know, they've reduced it. Like, it can go the other way in that regard. So there's loads of cool stuff that we're going to start to bring to employees, you know, just little things that, and then they'll start to ask questions and then they can drive it themselves. If you start the process with offering something, it then expands out, and that's what's quite cool, rather than just going, well, I'm not going to do anything, it's not going to make that much of an impact. It's kind of a nonsense.
Yeah. Andrew, you've been a great guest. Thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.